So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a pleasure to be here in the beautiful Bergamo and to speak in such a beautiful venue. I think, Professor Cavalieri, I think this is the most beautiful place I ever spoke in. So this is a record. And today I'm going to speak in the next 35 minutes about cybersecurity challenges in the age of IoT, the Internet of Things. Mayor Gori addressed this as one of the major cybersecurity challenges that we have today for manufacturing systems and basically everywhere. And then I'll leave the floor open for questions if you have any. By the way, if you don't have questions, I will consider it as a personal failure. So please think about your questions in advance because you don't want me to fail, right? So as I was introduced, my name is Esti Peshin. I'm the general manager of the cyber division of Israel Aerospace Industries. We are essentially the Israeli Boeing, a bit smaller than Boeing, but we do deal with aerospace, defense systems, and cybersecurity solutions. Now, when we are talking about cyberspace, this is a confusing term. Everything today is considered as cyber. So trying to model what essentially includes cyberspace is a bit difficult. And the way I like to model it is the following. So when we are looking at cyberspace, we are looking at 4 types of users. We have the consumers, essentially myself, you. I always give my mother as an example. She's a very adept user of cyberspace. She uses her mobile messaging systems, she uses her social media, she uses her email constantly. She is subject to cyber attacks, but she doesn't understand the risks of cyber. She obviously understands that cyber is important because I'm the general manager of a cyber division, but she doesn't understand that she's constantly being attacked. And then there are enterprises, critical infrastructures like power companies, water companies, transportation, seaports, airports, and finally, government. Now, in terms of potential solutions within cyberspace, we have the IT and information assurance solutions, essentially firewalls, antiviruses, intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems. These have been around for many, many years, more than 30 years. They used to be called IT security solutions. Now they are referred to in a sexier term, cyber solutions. But these are manufactured by the broader IT security and cybersecurity industry. But today these solutions are insufficient because each one of them addresses a singular point of a network. And in order to be able to make sense of what these solutions are telling us, we have today security operations centers. They basically gather information from all these singular cybersecurity elements and create, and this is the holy grail of cyber, they create situational awareness. They basically are trying to tell you if you are under attack or not. And I will address some examples later. But these solutions, the defensive solutions, are insufficient because, and this is something that each and every one of you should remember, a persistent attacker will succeed regardless of the strengths of the network. And the reason for this is that the attackers are stronger than the defenders. You can model cybersecurity like a balloon. In order to protect it, you need to protect the entire surface of the balloon. In order to attack it, all you need is a small pin. So in order to be able to counter attacks, to mitigate the effects of attacks, we need to know about them in advance. We need to predict them. And in order to do that, we need cyber threat intelligence. We need to know about the intentions of the potential attacker. Now, this cyber threat intelligence is a defensive tool. It's a tool where we basically coast the realms of the dark web and try to determine that an attacker is about to attack us, where we try to find indicative signals that an attack is impending. This is not to be confused with the fourth element, which is cyber intelligence, basically helping the good guys, police forces, law enforcement agencies, identify bad guys in cyberspace. These are not the hackers, these are just criminals, insurgents, terrorists that we are trying to track through cyberspace. A little bit about ourselves. Israel Aerospace Industry is essentially the Israeli Boeing. We've been around for more than 60 years, fully owned by the government of Israel. We have cutting-edge technologies. The main thing we invest is in research and development. We are active both in the defense and the commercial markets, and we are considered a leader in both the ICT and ICS, industrial control systems, cybersecurity. We are considered a leader in research and development and innovation. And this is my pride and joy, we are the leaders of the Israeli Cyber Companies Consortium. This is a consortium comprising 10 Israeli companies. Some of them are larger companies. I'm sure you heard the names Checkpoint and CyberArk. And some of them are smaller startups. And together we offer our end users end-to-end solutions for their cyber requirements. Now, the cyber arena is evolving and expanding. And today we see various trends that are making it more and more vulnerable. So, mobility. You know, each and every one of us is walking around with a computer. Each and every one of us is attached to this computer. Now, this has, obviously, it has as good elements. The fact that I can constantly be reached can be perceived as good. The fact that I can share experiences from the places where I'm located. For example, I sent my team a beautiful picture of this amazing hall is a good thing. But the fact that I'm going around with my mobile device means that I'm constantly vulnerable. My data is there, and everyone can know where I am located at a given moment. Cloud computing is becoming a powerhouse. We can do everything in the cloud, but the cloud may be potentially more vulnerable than segregated computer systems. And I'll speak about that in a moment. Internet of Things. Okay, so when I was asked to explain Internet of Things in a popular Israeli TV show. So I basically said Internet of Things is when my refrigerator starts talking to me. And when I'm on my way home, I can command it, please take the chicken out and transfer it to the oven and ask the oven to warm it at 250 degrees. So by the time I'm home, well, I'll have a cooked meal for me. Now, this is obviously a good thing, right? I have a good cooked meal when I come home. But it's also a bad thing, because the bad guys can access my refrigerator and potentially the refrigerators of all the citizens of Israel or Italy or any other country and command them to warm the food. So we can create a situation where everyone has spoiled food in their refrigerator, a shortage, which may impact. So, Internet of Things adds to the complexity of cyberspace. And finally, embedded systems. Okay? The embedded systems today have more and more computing power. Ergo, more and more vulnerabilities. Now, let's briefly discuss a small case study. How many of you came to Bergamo by plane? I did. Okay, so you may consider a ship on the way back after I tell you this story. So, April 2015, a hacker gets on a plane. It's an American hacker by the name of Chris Roberts. He's flying from the East Coast to the West Coast in order to participate in a conference. He gets on a plane, and then he tweets in his Twitter account, hey, I see there's Wi-Fi on the plane. I'm going to cause the oxygen masks to drop. He obviously writes it in a nicer manner and in 256 characters. One thing led to another. He was taken off the plane by FBI agents and banned for life from flying United. Now, the cyber industry was in turmoil. Everyone was speaking about this, and everyone was saying, well, he was just joking. Why did they ban him for life from flying United? He actually is banned for life from flying United. And months later, in May, he was arrested. And, you know, Freedom of Information Act, so everything is published, right? So his search warrant was published, and it was published also in a website that hackers like to frequent by the name of Wired. If you are a hacker and not reading Wired, you're not a hacker. So this search warrant, signed by a judge and by an FBI agent, basically outlines his interrogation. And this is what he says during his interrogation. So he basically lists his computer system. He obviously owns a Mac computer, an Apple computer. He owns several iPads, an iPhone. And then he basically admits that over the past 2 years before he was arrested, he hacked into airplanes between 15 to 20 times. And he explains how he does it. He gets on a plane. He sits on his chair. Under his seat is a computer by the name of SBC. It's basically a Windows computer that controls the IFE, the in-flight entertainment system, you know, the small screens before you. Now, he describes that he wiggles the lid of the SBC. It has a lid. If you want to identify the SBC under your seat when you're flying in economy class, it's in the chairs where you don't have leg room because there's a box in front of you. That's the SBC. So he wiggles the lid of the SBC. He takes out an RJ45 networking computer, basically a regular networking computer, connects his laptop, and starts working. And then he claims that he manages to overcome the single firewall that separates between the passenger area and the avionics area, and he actually gives commands to the plane. So he says he gave a climb command, CLB, so the plane climbed, and he gave a command where one of the engines moved faster than another engine, so the plane made a lateral movement like this. This is a formal FBI document. I'm not making this up. You are more than welcome to look it up. Look, Chris Roberts Wired. You'll see the entire document there. Not for the faint heart. Now, don't worry, he was lying. But can this be done? Answer is unfortunately yes. It's not long before a hacker will be able to take a plane down. It's not long before a hacker will be able to overcome the separation between the passenger area and the avionics area. Now, Chris Roberts is a very, very nice guy. You can see him over there in the middle, the one with the blue beard and the kilt. He was invited to give a keynote speech in a conference in Israel last year and also the year before. And he spoke about the awareness that needs to be heightened in industrial control systems. He's a very nice guy. He said that he did it only to raise awareness, and basically he never managed to actually get into the avionics part. He just managed to see it. Can it be done? Well, probably the answer is yes. We have been seeing many cyber events between 2015 and 2018. I won't speak about all of them, but I will speak about some landmark events that mark how the cyber industry or how the cyber realm today is addressing the challenge. So first and foremost, there was the Shadow Brokers event. It emerged in 2016. And Shadow Brokers are basically a group of hackers that decided to publish vulnerabilities that were allegedly developed by security agencies in the US, allegedly the NSA. So they published a bunch of zero-day vulnerabilities. Now, we know for a fact that these were zero-day vulnerabilities because they were utilized in other attacks. Among one of them is the Petya attack, Petya attack, also known as NotPetya attack. And that was a ransomware attack against the Microsoft Windows computers. It had a variant in 2016 and then a more ominous version in 2017 that also employed a zero-day vulnerability. Zero-day vulnerabilities are ones that are not known. Even if you patch your system to the best possible extent, you will not be able to prevent these attacks. That's the meaning of a zero-day attack, something that is unknown. And allegedly, this zero-day that Petya used in 2017 derived from the Shadow Broker repository. Now, in May 2017, there was an even more severe ransomware attack. Some of you may have even been affected by it. It's called the WannaCry attack. It's basically an MS Windows attack as well. And the idea was that it's a ransomware attack. Your computer suddenly turned red. and there was a small message saying, if you don't pay me between 300 and 600, it varied between countries, very sophisticated, you don't pay me between 300 and 600 US dollars by Bitcoins, well, your files will remain encrypted forever. It affected 300,000 computers. Quite amazing. And then there was the Triton attack. A Triton attack is a landmark attack, and each and every one of you who is within the manufacturing process and wants to understand cybersecurity needs to read more about the Triton attack, because the Triton attack is a landmark attack. The Triton attack was the first attack that affected a safety component in an industrial plant. We don't exactly know where the plant was located. The press reports Saudi Arabia, but it may have been elsewhere. And this malware interacted with the safety instrumental system, the SIS, by the name of Tricorex. It was manufactured by Schneider Electric, and it basically caused some processes to shut down. This is how it was discovered. They saw that processes were shutting down inadvertently, so they looked into this and understood that something is going on. They did some more research, and they found this malware. So basically, the world is changing. Now, I could speak for hours about attacks, but I want to move forward and speak a little bit also about the solutions. Now, one more trend that we are seeing today is that the bad guys are attacking not only our data and infrastructure, but they're also attacking our minds. In the past, we spoke about two types of attacks: CNO, computer network operations, and CNE, computer network exploitation. And these basically meant that the bad guys are either attacking our systems in order to gather IP, to steal data from our systems. This IP could either be list of customers, list of passwords, or the source code to our new and exciting development. Or attacks that were aimed to bring down a system, to disable it, to disrupt it. Now, today, we are seeing new types of attacks. They are called CNI, computer network influence. And basically, they're attacking our minds. They're using fake news. They are using influence campaigns via social media. We are all connected through the veins to social media, to mobile messaging, in order to influence what we are thinking about. Now, this is more severe than CNO and CNE attacks, because it can undermine the essence of democracy, which is built on free thought, on the fact that we make our own decisions. And this is something that should concern us very much. And I'm not saying this only to you as the manufacturing community. I'm saying this to you as an academic community that should address these situations and try to find solutions. I'll speak more about what are the challenges in a moment. So we are seeing today a strategic change in cyber threat. We are seeing more involvement of superpowers, state-level influence, and state-level, I would say, assets that are propagating to the bad guys one way or another. We are seeing more and more attacks on financial establishments for financial gain. We are seeing attacks on critical infrastructures. We are seeing large-scale industrial espionage, and we are seeing CNI, computer network influence attacks. Now, for industrial systems, we are seeing a growing trend of attacks. You can see here some information from Kaspersky Labs. It's a report that was published in the first half of 2017. And you can see here the percentage of systems attacked in various countries. But I think the most interesting data that this report included is this slide, where we can see the sectors that were attacked. Number one, healthcare. Okay, not only are they messing with our data, not only are they messing with our systems, not only are they messing with our minds, they are attacking the health system. They are messing with our lives. You can see here a government in second place, and the third, very important place, manufacturing. Why is this happening? Well, first and foremost, when we are looking at the kill chain, at the cyber kill chain versus the efficiency of the existing tools, we are seeing a very severe situation. So we see that for every element in the kill chain is basically how malware works. The malware is delivered, it's executed, then it infects the network, and then there's the recovery phase. So you can see that for each of these elements in the kill chain, there are statistics that show that the existing cybersecurity systems are insufficient. So for example, for delivery, we see that 47% of the companies surveyed in the Health Data Management 2017 survey experienced breakdown. We can see that 79% experienced breakdown in the execution level. We see that 37% of the organizations were infected, and this is the most important part, we see that 14% reached a situation where the damage is irreversible. Supply chain. Mayor Gori addressed also the supply chain challenge, and supply chain today is becoming more and more complex. Obviously, this is why you're here, right? Now, when it's becoming more and more complex, it's also becoming more and more vulnerable. And we are seeing more and more attacks or attempts of attacks through the supply chain. Okay? I can develop an amazing system which will eventually be installed on computers that I buy from a manufacturer. And if this manufacturer doesn't protect his networks, I may be buying a computer with a little something inside it, and my system becomes insecure. You want a small example? There's a beautiful example with the CC Cleaner. CC Cleaner is a software to clean computers, basically, to manage data on computers, to erase residual elements when you delete an app or when you delete a program from your computer, some things remain. So CC Cleaner basically cleans it, and the computer moves a little bit faster because of that. So between August and September 2017, 2.2 or 2.3, depending on the source, users were affected when they downloaded a malicious version of CC Cleaner. Now, this was a very interesting attack because it started in March 2017, where the attackers got hold of the company that manufactured the CC Cleaner was called Piriform, and they managed to gain hold of some servers within the company and to expand their reach, and eventually in July, they replaced the version of CC Cleaner with a malicious version. Now, it was very interesting because at the end of July, Piriform was acquired by Avast. Avast is one of the larger antivirus companies. So an antivirus company was now delivering malicious code to 2.3 million users around the world. It was only detected because some Cisco analysts saw something strange happening with the CC Cleaner, and they reported to the company, and the company basically corrected it and returned to the original code. This is a supply chain attack. More and more of these are happening today. IoT is also a major trend. So today we are seeing more than 6 billion things in the IoT. Now, today, people are not talking about IoT, we are talking about IoE. Internet of Things, IoT, now it's Internet of Everything, IoE. So every day, more than 5 million devices are connected. The more, I would say, conservative approaches speak about 20 billion by 2020. I think the number will be significantly higher. I think it's going to be exponentially higher than that. Obviously, when we're talking about the manufacturing process, IoT is king, right? Everything is connected. I have better control over my processes. I have better control over my data. Increases efficiency, increases effectiveness. Everything's good, right? But IoT has a lot of security challenges attached to it. And you can see here various things. I love this caricature. It's the only caricature I show. I never include caricatures in my keynotes, except for this one. And I just love it because it depicts the essence of IoT. And you can see here in the middle of the screen, you see the small web camera and the lamp saying, excuse us while we participate in a DDoS attack. Sounds like a joke, right? Well, it wasn't, because there was the Mirai attack. Now, this attack started in October 2016, and it attacked Linux-based consumer devices, IP cameras, web cameras, and routers. And it basically replaced their codes and created a botnet, a network of devices that were controlled by a central entity. And this botnet affected a DDoS attack. A DDoS, denial of service attack, is an attack where you basically shoot packets at something, and that something basically cannot handle all the packets, so it crashes. And this was an extremely severe attack because in October 2016, they used the Mirai botnet to attack DIN. DIN is a DNS provider, and it provided DNS services, basically website services, for many prominent companies. And during this attack, for 3 2-hour intervals, so a total of 6 hours, the DIN services were down. And some of the companies it affected were BBC, CNN, they were down. Amazon was down. Airbnb, down. HBO, down. Twitter, down. Netflix, down. And many more. You can look up the list. It's a flabbergasting list. Then in May 2017, we had the Perserai attack. Now, Perserai attack affects IP cameras like the ones used in safe and smart cities. So they affected 1,000 cameras out of 200 cameras that had a specific vulnerability, and Perserai used a zero-day attack, so it couldn't be detected. Now, cyber is very dual. It's very enigmatic in a sense that on one hand, it's an enabler of the future. It allows us better access to data, better control over data, better visibility of data, better communication, better connectivity. It's borderless. It's a great thing. But it's also a very, very dangerous thing. And when we are looking about the asymmetry of cyber, we see that the attackers are extremely well rooted within the system. We see only a small portion of the attacks, but the underlying elements are extremely severe. Now, a few messages on how these challenges need to be addressed, because I don't want to leave you only with the thought about, the bad elements in cyber, but how we as humanity, as industry, as academia can start to address them. So first, when we are talking about national-grade cyber challenges, we need national-grade solutions. And these solutions have several elements. Technology, state-of-the-art, and a lot of companies are working on this, but also methodology, how to use these solutions. Constant innovation. These solutions need to constantly innovate in order to address the emerging and the evolving trends. Cooperation, this is key. Cooperation is the king, because as we share data, we become stronger. And capacity buildup. Everyone should be trained in cyber. Our 2-year-old kids should be trained in cyber, because when we train them, they become more aware. When they become more aware, we as a humanity become more resilient. When we are talking about protecting mission-critical systems, we need to understand that IT security is not enough. We need to harden everything to the best possible extent, but we also need to monitor the systems in order to detect anomalies. I mentioned 8 cyber attacks. I hope you counted together with me. Now, in all these attacks, the attacks were not detected because the screen flashed blue and someone said, hey, an attack is going on. No, they were detected because the processes were monitored and anomalies were detected. One of the only ways to predict cyber attacks is to detect anomalies. And cyber intelligence. This is key. We need to know about attacks in advance. Now, the bad guys tend to publish their intentions. They're speaking about it in the dark web. We should monitor the dark web and detect these intentions. When we are talking about the cybersecurity risk, we are talking about 5 pillars. Now this is, once again, an amazing document published by the DHS just recently, May 2018. The name appears here in the bottom, and you may want to look at it because it's a very, very concise document on how to manage the cyber risk. So we have risk identification. We need to assess the risks to everything. Reducing the vulnerability surface by hardening, reducing the threat surface, and on the other side, consequence mitigation. Mitigation, very important. We need to understand that we will be attacked. It doesn't matter how many defenses we will put in place, we will be attacked. The way we mitigate the attack and we manage the outcomes, this will determine if our systems will survive the attack. So today, the name of the game is resilience. It's not protection. A collaborative approach is key. And we're talking about information sharing and cooperation at the enterprise and consumer level, with the national level, with academia, on all the aspects of cyber. Prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery, and in all the possible forms, the proactive, intelligence, investigation, enforcement, and attribution. Okay? Collaboration is key. If there is one message I would like you to leave this room with, it's this. It's our strength lies in our collaboration. And the fact that I was invited here by Professor Cavalieri to speak and to raise your awareness to cyber and to give you a sense of how the industry perceives cyber is a very important step. We need to have more of these. We need to collaborate. We need to share data. When we are talking about cybersecurity layers, we are talking about essentially 3 layers. There's the protection layer, the prediction layer, and the mitigation layer. In the protection layer, we basically need to harden everything, right? But we need to address also 2 important elements. One of them is cyber training. Now, this is a protection layer, and the other one is a physical security layer. Okay, because if someone can gain access to my server, well, he can put a USB, an infected USB into the server, and then I'm done for. I can protect my network as much as I can, but if he gains access to the computer, well, I'm done for, right? Cyber training is important. I want to give you here an example. I'm the general manager of the cyber division of Israel Aerospace Industries. We are a defense industry, as I mentioned, and obviously we are constantly attacked. Now, my name is out there. Everyone is trying to attack me. You want to know what's the best way to attack me? I'll tell you. You can give a call to my secretary. Her name is Lior. She's a very nice lady. And tell her, hey, I'm going to meet Esti tomorrow. Can I just send you my presentation so you open it on your computer just to make sure it works? Done. Okay? This would work with 90% of the secretaries. You can try it with Lior. It won't work, but she's well trained. Now, raising the awareness of everyone is crucial, because if Lior and all your secretaries and colleagues and co-workers would understand that this is an invitation to a cyber attack, they would say, no, please bring your presentation in tomorrow and we'll screen it, and we'll screen it with an antivirus, with a firewall, with whatever, and then we'll use it. That would be much, much, much better. Or better still, why don't you present it from the cloud and not on our computers? There's the prediction detection layer, and I spoke about it. Anomaly detection is king. And finally, mitigation. Mitigation is crucial. You need to take into account that you will be attacked. Now, I believe that tomorrow's keynote is about big data, so I won't steal the thunder, but the way to predict attacks is to effectively use big data, right? Now, if you're asking me, okay, but we didn't do anything about cyber, where should we start? So start here. This is the vulnerability assessment and risk analysis process. And it's basically a very standard process. This is the one we offer our customers, but you can look it up and you basically see the same thing. The idea is you basically run a risk assessment. If you want it to be extremely effective, all you need to give the guys who are doing the risk assessment for you is your website. Have them do some intelligence work. For example, calling Lior and trying to get hold of my mobile number or my email number. By the way, you will not succeed. Then do some analysis and utilize the outcome in order to harden your systems. Many, many good companies are doing this today. This is the place to start, the vulnerability assessment and risk analysis process. How eventually a protected system would look like, this is a generic approach of how to protect a system that incorporates an autonomous element. Here we have a train and a control center. Today, more and more of these autonomous or semi-autonomous systems are around us. They can be a manufacturing element, they could be a plane, they could be a train, they can be a ship, they can be basically anything. So we have to consider on-board hardening and monitoring. An autonomous or semi-autonomous element needs to be hardened on the element itself, secure communication, hardening the control center that manages this element, and cyber threat intelligence, on which I already spoke, and cyber forensics. If an attack happens, let's analyze it, and let's extract the countermeasures to prevent the next attack. Finally, let's speak a little bit about cyber research challenges. Okay, this is I think, the second most important outcome of my keynotes. And I was asked by Professor Cavalieri to share with you how we, as industry, perceive the cyber challenges, what we believe academia should be researching, and what solutions would be useful for us. So I decided this is a non-exhaustive list, but I thought that the three following elements are extremely important. Number one, securing IoT. Today, there is no effective solution for securing IoT. The researchers that will be able to find an effective way to do that, to communicate in IoT in a secure manner, will be extremely important to mankind. Supply chain management and maintaining root of trust, once again, extremely important. I'm buying these computers on which I'm installing my state-of-the-art system, and these computers are infected. How can I ensure that these computers are secure? How can I ensure that they do not include a small little element that compromises them along the way? How can I ensure that if I download CC Cleaner, well, I'm not downloading malware into my computer? Root of trust. This is the keyword, this is the motto. How to maintain root of trust from the moment the chip is designed until the moment it reaches my lab, it reaches the consumer. How do I alert when the root of trust is broken? And finally, and this may not be along your lines, but it affects each and every one of us, how to detect social engineering and influence attacks. There are quite a few research programs undergoing in this area. No solutions yet. We are involved in such a research program in Horizon 2020 called Dogana, that is basically researching social engineering for cyber attacks. But there are many more emerging researchers in this area. The researcher who will be able to solve CNI, once again, huge contribution to mankind, huge contribution to humanity. With this, I conclude my keynote and I open the floor for a few questions. How much time do we have for questions? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I think we have times for 2 questions from the audience.
Well, I told you, if there are no questions, I will consider it as a failure. So these 2 questions have to be good ones.
You're talking that IoT has a problem of securing itself. If the elements get a minimum level of intelligence, so they have some self-knowledge of knowing what's normal and what's abnormal, would this be a step in the right direction?
The answer is yes and no, because obviously for the elements themselves, if they have this self-awareness, or I would dare use the term artificial intelligence, it would improve their security. But what if someone infects the code that is running and creating this awareness and creating this artificial intelligence? So it can be a step in the right direction as long as the original code is extremely secure.
And if you say limit the self-knowledge to invariant knowledge, so you can basically hard-code it in an unchangeable way with the device, then you mitigate part of it.
So there's one thing I learned in cyber, okay? I agree with what you're saying, but the bad guys are extremely sophisticated. And if it's electronic, if it includes bits, they will eventually find a way. I do not think there is anything today in cyber that is fully secure. So even if this code is hard-coded and extremely secure and foolproof, it is not essentially foolproof. And we need to consider the potential outcomes of a situation that it will be hacked.
So it needs to be embedded in a large organization which does the monitoring and in order to be effective.
Correct, correct.
And I have a small practical question. On television, I saw some guy claiming that PLC technology is inherently impossible to make secure. The
Yes.
programmable logic controllers, you have to protect them in a different way. They're not capable of becoming secure themselves.
I tend to agree. I think that in order to create a more secure environment, we need to change the paradigm of how we do things. How to change the paradigm, I don't really know, but we need to do that.
Good morning. Christos Emmanuelidis, Cranfield University, UK. Thanks for challenging the conventional thinking. So it's probably wrong to say secure Internet of Things. It will never be. So to continue the thread from the previous question, would a further step in the right direction be to have emerging security? So you have the individual elements of security manifesting what they believe their own security is, but you can have many of them and at different layers doing the same and eventually have an emerging perception of security.
Yes, so this is actually one of the lines of thought in research today. So the way I call it, you see, there's Internet of Things, Internet of Everything, so I call it Internet of Security. And essentially, it's what you are saying now. It means combining all the security elements everywhere into one holistic security picture. Can it be done? Well, I hope so, because it can be a huge step in the right direction. And I urge all of you to continue thinking about how to better secure our world. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. I'm here, so anyone who wants to speak to me, I'll be happy to speak over the breaks and lunch.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Peshin is staying with us until 1 o'clock round, and so you will have time to have some talk with her. So it's time for a gift. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Peshin, for your inspirational talk. I would ask Elena to give you a memory of your speech in our conference.
Thank you so much. It's beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you.